Today's episode of the Bill Simmons podcast is brought to you by our presenting sponsor, SeatGeek. It's almost Super Bowl time. Buying tickets can be extra complicated, a huge investment sometimes. That's why our friends at SeatGeek are here to help. SeatGeek is committed to helping you find the best seats at the best prices, fully guaranteed, with their revolutionary grading system and a team of ticket concierge experts that are a phone call away with free advice. Download the free SeatGeek app today and get your tickets to see my Patriots take on the Falcons in Houston, or check out their Super Bowl tracker on SeatGeek.com. By the way, Tate, right now, according to my SeatGeek sources, 25% of buying is coming from Georgia, 24% coming from New England. Come on, Pats fans, step it up for God's sakes. We're also brought to you by Roast Battle 2. The people have spoken. It is back. The 4-night event features top comedians getting verbally violent until just one is left standing. Features a star-studded lineup of judges, including Snoop Dogg, Sarah Silverman, Jason Sudeikis, and the roast master, Jeffrey Ross. It's a battle you don't want to miss. The 4-night event begins January 26th at 10, 9 Central on Comedy Central. Don't miss the live finale on Sunday, January 29th at 10, 9 Central. See who gets crowned the king or queen of cruelty. We are also brought to you by TheRinger.com. That's where I wrote not one but 2 columns last week. Hopefully we'll have another one on Friday this week. Check out our Channel 33 podcast for the emotional reunion of old Grantlanders, Dave Jacoby and Juliet Littman on Juliet's Bachelor Party show. Resubscribe to the Shack House podcast with Joe House and Jeff Shackelford because it's back, and so is Tiger Woods. Quick story on Jacoby. He came by the office, surprised me. I forgot he was doing it in the office, and we ended up playing Golden Tee. 1 round. He's been playing way more than I have. I haven't been playing a lot lately. We tied after 18 holes on the Desert Island course, so we decided to do a 2-hole playoff, or as many holes until somebody won. And in hole 20, I choked. I flat out choked. I knocked one in the water, and he birdied and I parred. And Dave Jacoby is now your Golden Tee champion until I can take the title back. Listen, I'm very sorry for all my fans out there. I'm very, very sorry. I let everyone down. I just lost my focus, and now that title belt is in LA Live, and it's gnawing away at me, and I'm going to do better. I promise. You have my word. I'm going to get that title back. Bill Burr coming up. Let's go. Well, in the office / studio, new dad.
That's
Bill
right.
Burr. Welcome to the Dad Club. It's such a great club.
It is.
It's a club of no sleep.
It's been awesome.
It's
I've
a club
waited
of
so
doing
long to
nothing
be
for
one, so-
4 months as your wife does everything, and then eventually you become important.
Have you ever felt so useless?
Oh, it's worse.
I just say on a loop, can I get you anything? What do you need? I have like a cooler downstairs where the bedroom is, and I got it filled up with all drinks, snacks, all of that stuff. I've been cooking up a storm. Fortunately, a lot of my friends, my buddy Andrew helps me with my podcast. He made a big pot of meatballs and stuff, which have been so killer.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to buy you clothes and toys. It's just food is the one. So it's just like I just throw those in a pot, heat them up, throw a little Parmesan on them, and it's when you're trying to go in between napping and freaking out, baby crying type of stuff. That's great stuff to have. So, but it's been fun so far.
You're basically like a third-string quarterback. You're holding the clipboard during the games. Rooting on Tommy
but it's
from
not
the
game
sidelines.
time, though. It's more like practice, where it's just like you're getting a couple of reps, when you hold a kid.
Yeah.
Like you're actually getting in the game on Sunday. You're not.
Yeah.
And, maybe hey, you want another towel? You want a water bottle? Yeah, it's a lot of that.
What can I do, Tommy? Anything?
Yeah. So I have a how newfound respect and love for my wife. It's been amazing. Just
Dave,
5 days of it.
Childbirth alone is respect for life, and
it's
then
over.
Everything after.
I was saying the only people who could talk trash to a woman as far as pain is maybe those UFC guys, but only the ones who don't tap out when they're getting their elbow dislocated. Like the Gracies could be like, "Oh, you went through birth, okay," and even they'd have to be like, "Okay, well that's it was something else. It was something else, man." She. I was joking that I now understand why I lose so many arguments to my wife. I didn't realize she was that level of tough, so it's great.
They are the toughest. And it's funny, I'm an only child, so from an ego standpoint, the first 10 weeks of just being useless it's like, wow, I really thought it'd be more important. And then as soon as the baby can see, that's the other thing. They're blind for like 2 months, basically. They can only see like colors and stuff. And then when they see you and they're like, hey, it's that guy.
Hey, that guy, yeah.
Hey, I like that guy. And then your heart melts. And then from that moment on, they have you.
More? Melts
that
even
10
more.
week,
Okay.
I'm telling you, that first time they look at you and they're like, hey, that guy.
I like that guy's all right with me.
That guy is the guy. He gets me stuff.
Yeah.
I like his smell. It's great.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see how it trickles into your comedy.
It definitely will. It definitely will, but I'm not going to be the dad comic going, so I'm burping a baby. And,
right.
And of course, wherever you put the burp thing, you know it's going down your shirt. I mean, everybody's has done all of those. And fortunately, I waited long enough to have a kid to realize how truly annoying parents are.
Yeah.
And just they're all knowing and everything is so damn important. And then like what's so funny about it's the most amazing experience you can have, but pretty much everybody has it. So what what you're talking about is is the most amazing thing, yet one of the most common things that people get to experience if you're lucky enough,
Right.
And they sit there talking like they're that Neil deGrasse Tyson guy. Like they got it's just like, dude, like, and everybody's got all these theories and stuff. And I really learned to I was just like, these like people are crazy. Who I really like to tell that me and my wife were having a kid were people who didn't have kids, because they would just be, oh really, oh man, I'm so happy for you. That's great, and they'd leave it at that.
Yeah.
Parents were, okay, you're having a kid. I'll tell you right now, this is what you need, and blah blah blah. And it's just superimposing their experience onto you. And Did you have people in your life pushing you to have kids? Because I was always suspect of those people. Because I always felt like being a parent isn't easy. Right.
So I always felt like they had ulterior motives because they wanted more people to be a little bit miserable like they are.
There's a certain percentage of parents that on as much as they love their kids, resent them. And
There's no question.
And I would get this vibe from people where it was just like, oh yeah, hey, no more this, no more that, no more blah blah. And I was just kind of thinking like, that's what you got out of being a parent, was the fact you couldn't do blow anymore on a random Thursday. I mean,
right.
It's just like, it's kind of good the kid took that away. No,
Well, how long have you been with your wife?
Geez, a while. We've been well over 10 years.
Yeah, because that part is a little weird to get used to, where you have this anchor now.
Yeah.
So it's.
I personally love it though.
Oh, I actually liked it too, because I like being home. So it was like an excuse for me to be home. But I think most people.
The whole thing. I actually really enjoy changing diapers, especially because it makes me feel like I'm doing something.
Right.
And then it's the best once
How about swaddling? Have you gotten into swaddling?
My swaddle game is
Good
I got it
swaddle
about
game?
90%. I'm almost ready for the regular season. It was at when we brought her home. It was at like a 60, and I just I was afraid of the baby. So I didn't want to go too tight or anything, and they're just squirming all around, and then the whole thing comes apart. Then it's coming up around their face, and you're worried they're not going to be able to breathe. That first night when you got them in the bassinet there, I mean, it's like every 3 seconds, just waking up, making sure they're still breathing.
Right.
It's really like I actually had her on my stomach, my chest, and my wife's going, that's actually not safe. But I was only half asleep, and like every 10 breaths, I would stop breathing to see if I could feel her chest moving in and out. So.
When can we expect the staged photo of you pretending to be asleep with the baby on your chest that I see on Facebook all the time from some of my friends? I know who you are. Who do those?
Yeah, no.
I always know when somebody's fake asleep with their baby on their chest.
Yeah, no. I'm not. I don't get people who post pictures of their babies. I mean, on Facebook, or their children. I don't get people who like on the back. I did a joke about this. On the back of their car, they have the stick figures: dad, mom, 3 kids, and a pet. And it's like literally serial killer behind you knows like everything that's on the menu. You know what I mean? It's just like, why would you put that level of information out there? Like I don't do any of that type of stuff. And I think especially now, I think it's really hard for like the level of innocence that I had until like 11 or 12 was insane compared to nowadays. Like as far as like the level of cursing, well, I mean, I heard a lot of cursing in my house, but I'm just saying, like, as far as like just inundated with the stuff that they can see, they're like, these kids nowadays, by the time they're like 9, it's like they worked on the Vice Squad for like 20 years. They're like grizzled vets. So I'm hoping as much as I can to try to, like, just, I don't know. I want to bring back some old stuff. Like I want to play catch with my kid. I want to do stuff like that and be outside.
Catch.
Yeah. Oh, catch is the greatest.
Catch. It's a novel concept.
Catch is the greatest.
Does anyone play catch with their kids
No,
anymore?
catch. I think catch. You know what's great about catch is it's a subtle way to talk to your kid, I think, and find out what's going on in their life. You can just, because you're doing another activity. It's like hitting on a chick at the gym versus doing it at at a meat market. Like they're in like a dance club. They got their guard up. Hey, gonna get your drink. Like they got that. But if you're doing a common activity, you know what I mean?
That's what club soccer has turned into for me with my daughter, who's now 11 and a half. When we drive to a tournament, I have her trapped. And I take her phone, and she's in the car next to me for over an hour, and I just fire questions, and I try to find out what's going on in the 6th grade, who likes who, do these girls still getting along, and they eventually break. They start spilling because they got nothing else to do.
It's like, you know what it is? It's like your first 48 with your kid, like trying to get him to confess. So, I got a lot of work to do on myself, to be honest with you. I really got to make sure that I don't want to be the flipping out, like the levels that I had lack of control of my emotions. I don't want to do that. I will definitely save that for my stand-up act and that type of thing. But like I said, I'm old enough now to know what an idiot I am. And I'm also lived long enough that I've seen comedians that do what I do. And then when something and then when somebody has a kid, they decide that, now I'm going to work totally clean and I'm going to start wearing sweaters and I'm going to literally completely get away from.
You'd never do that.
No, I couldn't.
No, you can't.
I could. I am wearing a sweater now.
You are who you are.
Maybe it's happening. Yeah, I am.
Here's the only advice I would give you.
What's that?
Not that you asked about the.
No, if you were a jerk with advice, you before you even turned on the mic, you would have been like.
No, this is
me
great
your
advice.
Daddy daycare stuff.
No, there's a stage with macaroni and cheese and like chicken fingers, and I forget how old it is. It's after obviously they get some teeth,
right?
And they never finish it. And this is when the dads put on like 8 to 10 pounds. Because as a male, you see mac and cheese.
Yeah.
And really? Then you're not going to eat all that? And you start, and it just adds up. So just be careful because you're on television and stuff.
I don't know.
I just don't want everyone all of a sudden be like, I gained 8 pounds. I don't know what happened. It's like all that mac and cheese. You're just pulling left and right. You won't even realize you're doing it.
I had a buddy of mine did that. He would make himself a couple eggs and had 2-3 kids and make them eggs and then finish the eggs that they didn't have and toast.
Have 7 eggs.
But also like our age group, you were raised not to waste. My mother was always like, it was that classic Carlin bit. Do you want this before I throw it out? Like I remember when the first time I heard Carlin did some sort of bit like that. I called my mother into the room. I was like, you got to, I think we had a VCR at that point, so I was able to rewind it. It was so long ago. And she laughed, but it's so funny. Do you want to eat this before I throw it out? It's literally going bad. And it's got like another 6 hours where it's still going to be edible, and your mother would just be handing it to you. We used to like hide food and stuff, hide it behind the stereo and pretend like you ate it because my mother was just such a stickler for finishing it all.
The last time I saw you, we were with the great one, Wayne Gretzky. And we did an interview. And I think he does a lot of that stuff. And he was kind of on legendary hockey player autopilot a little bit in the beginning. Mm-hmm. And then you went in and you were funny. And you could just see him like, oh, okay, this is going to be. Yeah. And then he just like the hockey player Wayne Gretzky personality came out that both of us were dying for. It was great. I had so much fun.
I love when he said, I like the fights too. I just didn't want to be in it. I thought that was cool. And it was funny when we were backstage waiting to go on, I couldn't believe I was talking to him. And I was like, so I guess we're going to be talking about what's wrong with hockey. And he kind of went into that, because he has to be he has a real responsibility to sell the game. So he started going, there's some Southern teams that blah, 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 blah. I just interrupted and I went like, there's nothing wrong with the game. And he looked at me and he goes, there's nothing wrong with it.
No.
There isn't.
The game's the game.
It is.
It's like The Wire. It's never going to change.
They're messing with it. Like this year I was talking on was on this podcast, Puck Off. Joe Bartnick has this podcast.
Puck Off.
Yeah, it's
a great name.
No. It's
Top 10 podcast name.
Yeah. It's all about like hockey and stuff. And like he knows the game. Like he can actually watch the games. Like you can fast forward at number 2 and he can still call out the second assists on highlights. I mean, he's unbelievable. Really? So we were talking about it yesterday on as far as like this year, like the referees have just been jumping into fights. Like you have to fight behind the play now or they're really trying to get in there. Yeah, and it's a bad move, man, because they've done all of this stuff to try to, there's nothing wrong with just like being one of the top 4 And it's just, that's not how corporations view it. They're going to try to, it's like, you ever have a band that you love and their first 2 albums are killer?
Yeah.
And then they just gradually start going more and more mainstream because they're trying to get more and more fans. And then they come out the other side. You're like, what is this? This isn't what it was.
This isn't what hooked me.
Yeah, speaking of which, I was downloading, remember the Romantics?
Yeah.
From the 80s? That first album, that album they have where they're dressed all in the red suits.
Legendary
they are
album.
Killer riffs. Just a great band. And by the time they got to like Talking in Your Sleep, and they had like, the echo on the singing, and their hair was all teased up, and that was right around the time their drummer left. He was one of my favorite drummers, very like underrated guy, Jimmy Marinos, and he was just had the vibe. He was total rock star, and I remember being upset when in high school, like, I can't believe that guy left. That guy was like, because he's saying what I like about you and everything.
Yeah.
And but now looking back, it was like, yeah, no, he kind of picked a good time.
He saw the writing on the wall.
Yeah. But I mean, that takes a lot of balls though, where, because you're starting to really make money, more and more screaming girls in the crowd. They're getting younger and younger. And you're like, oh God, we're really selling our souls. I think that gets to a point with like a band like that where you just can't pull the ripcord anymore. And you just have to totally steer into it, knowing that it's all going to be over within 3 years, and just buy a house and pay it off during that time and just hope you can live off residuals.
I think Pearl Jam, who I love, who have the song that starts the podcast, after their second album, I think Eddie Vedder went the other way. He's like, I see where this is going. I don't want this. We're gonna do some albums and maybe try to drive away some of
Which
these
is funny because I didn't like Pearl Jam at first, and then by their third album, I was like, these guys are good.
Yeah.
Like, these guys keep getting better. So I liked the direction.
They kept refining the sound and doing
what was
the
that
music
when it
they
came
wanted
out?
to
Was
do.
it not
Vitology?
Vitology. Yeah, that's the one I got when I first got into it, because I wasn't into 10.
Yeah. 10 was first, then I think Versus, then Vitology.
Yeah.
But no, we were talking about hockey. The fighting thing, the thing that's frustrating about it for me is, and I get why they're trying to police it and crack down, but in the playoffs, nobody fights. The dirty secret about fighting is like, it's really like a first half of the month season and guys trying to throw their weight around. And all, but by the time we get to the playoff, nobody wants to like get the instigator penalty or any of that stuff. And
no, that's the quickest way down to the minors, and it's just it's so competitive, it's so fast. I can't believe, like, I watched I was watching I'm like the king of going on and watching like games I saw already like 20 years ago, and I was watching this thing on I forget what game I was watching. Oh, first I was watching Billy Smith, hacking guys with the Islanders in the early 80s.
Best.
And I was just like, I can't believe how small and how slow everybody looks. And then even in the 90s, they look small. It's unbelievable. And like, I thought by the time we got to the 90s, like that we human beings had reached like, okay, you can't get bigger, you can't get faster and all that. And I just think taking the red line out, no more 2-line passes, like, guys, it's like anybody who was sort of crafty kind of got like you remember those guys, they're like the Butch Goring types, who had like the helmet that they painted 50 different colors for every team that they went to. And you just always, how does that guy get open? How does he, like, he's just this little guy out there. And then there was always the guys that could really fly around. But now it's just everybody seems to have like Theo Fleury speed out there. Even like the big guys, like how fast these guys go up and down the ice and how big they are.
I'm also amazed by the size of some of the guys. And that's why, like, I still have King season tickets you go to the game and there's some defenseman who's like 6'9".
Yeah, and they can turn.
And it was
those
6'9",
guys used to just
but
be
agile.
Like, they would come at you like a truck, and if you could just sidestep, they'd keep going and like plow into the first 3 rows.
Take
and now,
people out.
Yeah, they like.
They were
like old school robots, where robots couldn't move, and how these new ones have like lateral movement. Like that's what they've become. And it's a scary
I'm with you
game.
though. I did like something about, and maybe partly because that's what the age we grew up with, but I like the fact that Wayne Cashman was still skating around in an advanced age with like a little bit of a beer belly, ready to scrap, but.
Oh, and you watched him go bald. Yeah, he didn't have the helmet. He just
the long dreadlocks on the back, basically. And,
he looked like he was in a dad league by the end of it. But then he had like that left hand.
Still with the left. But by the end, he was even losing the fights, but he stayed on 2 more years. And I don't know, I miss like.
That guy was tough. Those guys from
guys
that era,
brutal.
it was sort of like, I came on, started watching the Bruins right at the end of the the generation past the big bad Bruins, right?
Right, me too.
After Esposito and all of those guys.
It was like the tail end of Bobby Orr.
Yeah, Wensick had just left, and it was Stan Jonathan, Terry O'Reilly, and Ray Bork had just come in.
So you were a tiny bit later than me. Yeah, because I'm a little bit older than you.
I was like 81. No,
I remember Orr's last solid year, barely. That was my first Bruins year.
Oh, yeah, no. But you started watching way young.
I was like 4, yeah.
Yeah, no. I didn't.
I was the only child. If it was on television, I was watching it.
But my parents were baseball and football, so like I didn't get exposed to hockey, and they until...
Remember the days of just watching an entire baseball game and you didn't have an iPad
used to keep
with you?
Score. My brother had a notebook, and he watched every single game over the summer, and he would keep score. And then he would save them. He'd go back and look at them and stuff. And like that was like your going to like the baseball encyclopedia. It was like your notebook and your baseball cards. And
it's impossible to explain to anyone now that people did that because now it's all online. There would be no reason to.
I'm blown away by people the way I think you got to play like fantasy to keep up with it because hockey, what I hate is I watch so much of it, but I can barely name anybody's name anymore because everybody's from like Europe or Russia and they got these crazy names.
Yeah.
And plus, as the older you get, your short-term memory goes. And like I've watched just about every Bruins game this year.
You still do?
And I've still watched Bruins and Celtics. I've been watching a lot of Celtics.
Celtics are very entertaining.
It was fun. How fun is that Celtics Wizards rivalry?
Oh my! It's unbelievable.
Yeah,
it's dressing up in black.
Oh, that was silly though. Oh, it's a funeral. But what I liked was. I just like that neither one of us, as much as we're doing this, we're not going to beat the Cavs unless somebody gets hurt. But
or unless there's a major trade.
But it's really fun. Like I'm actually already like the next big game that I'm looking for because we keep losing to the Torontos, we keep losing to Cavs, we lose to the guys who are basically going to be there in the end. But so the fact that we got this thing going on with the Wizards is great.
It's almost like the undercard of the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight or something.
Yeah, like a surprisingly good fight.
Yeah, it's like, a great undercard. Yeah. And that's really what Toronto actually is the team that I think they'd even have more trouble matching up with than Cleveland.
Well, I don't know
why Cleveland has no bench, so our bench can kind of rally back a little bit. So Toronto's just a nightmare.
I didn't like how John Wall flexed after dunking on Kelly Olynyk. That looked like me dunking on my little brother on a Nerf hoop. I mean, really? Do you got to like Kelly Olynyk? I
love NBA rivalries, and the NBA is just so scared between like the Rudy Tomjanovich punch 40 years ago to some of the bad boy Pistons, Riley's Knicks stuff.
Of course, going into the stands was
and then the Artest melee as the clincher. Yeah. And and actually the worst thing, the one that never gets mentioned was when Carmelo and the Nuggets, they had that big fight at MSG and it spilled into the front row with all the rich. Remember that one?
Vaguely remember that.
It's like 10 years ago. And then Carmelo kind of sucker punched somebody and then backpedaled 50 feet, which should be mentioned in his Hall of Fame resume when we get there. Like, you did punch somebody and backpedal 55 feet.
Hasn't everybody done that in a bar fight? Right. I mean, that is the move. You
this is a national televised
close your eyes
game.
a little bit, you throw it, and then you back up, and then you wait till people are holding you back to start leaning forward, like, let me at him.
It was a great hold me back. But I think after that, when the people in the front row paying like $4,000 a ticket were in danger, I think that was it. So they
they're another corporation, so I would have thought just even the fear that would happen without even a letter, I think that they would do that. But I also think that the NBA will be forever scared for what they were right before Bird and Magic came in.
Oh yeah.
And saved it.
Tape delayed finals and guys doing cocaine before games. And,
and all the people being like, where'd all the white guys go? Like that part at least is over. But I just think that they're really nervous about because that they were at a. I would think. I mean, I don't know enough about the game, but especially during that time. But I would think that there was a legit concern about the ABA. I would think just having a more exciting
they ended up
product.
merging with them in like 76 partly because of that concern. But then the next like 7 years, there's an amazing Sports Illustrated article about this in like 1979. It's a big feature about basically what's wrong with the NBA. And the thesis is the NBA too black? And you just have GMs and people talking about it and the
openly.
Challenges of selling a black league. And it's like, these guys are too, like an anonymous GM is like, these guys are, it's just too black right now. You can't sell the league. And you read it and you're like, wow, this feels like it came out in 1882.
Yeah, but if you look at it though, if you look at those, the black and white footage of the Celtics and their opponents when they play it, I mean, it looks like a pickup game at the Y.
It does.
And it's changed so quickly. I don't think that socially people progress nearly at the rate that the game did.
Right.
So
we're there now, though.
Them actually saying that, even let's just take out that they even were saying it in a racist way, like racially, like what they were saying as far as just trying to sell the product. I mean, you have to know what your customer is, and if your customer is like, I mean, you're talking like a 30-something-year-old at that point, like when he was born and like what they saw. I mean, they like were around to see like when there was like, whites only, like,
oh yeah,
I don't know, parts of the bus and like bathrooms and stuff. So for them to be legitimately concerned, forget about an owner who's probably like in their 60s. Like that's something people do a lot. Like when they look back on history, is they forget like when people were born. Like when I watched.
Over 70 should at least be taken with a grain of salt. Anyone over 70 at all times.
Well, I saw that movie, Hidden Figures.
Yeah.
And Kevin Costner, who I love, I got to do a movie with him. Amazing guy. His character, the fact that his character was progressive, yet was his age, like a 60-year-old guy. A 60-year-old guy in the early 60s was born almost in 1900. Well, how is he more progressive than some of the younger guys on it? I mean, that can happen. But like that's the stuff that I always like think about, like whenever, like especially with the internet now, that's like a big thing, is going back in time. Now that everybody knows the air quote right way to think, and going like, oh, what's up with that? Like they'll go back like Eddie Murphy Delirious, going, oh, all this stuff he said about gay people, and it's like, yeah, and you know what? And everybody laughed. Right. Because that's where everybody was at, because people didn't know any better. And now you look back, and the same people who laughed, but they're not on tape laughing, then get to be like, oh, that's absolutely blah, 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 blah. It's like, no, it's sort of a barometer of where people were at.
I've watched a lot of Seinfeld over the last couple months because my daughter really likes it, and it's on Hulu. And she's always like, put on a Seinfeld. And there's Seinfeld episodes where when you watch them through the 2017 prism, you go, oh. That like there's a whole that was a famous episode. It was the reporter thought George and Jerry were gay, and they kept going. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I feel like if you even did that episode now, there would be like a
but that was even then like so ahead of its time. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It was indicating where we are now.
Right. Let's take a quick break to talk about our friends at Squarespace. They make it easy to build beautiful websites, whether you're planning to start a business, change careers, or launch a creative project in the new year. You know what? Tackle your next move with Squarespace. Widely used by all kinds of people and businesses, Squarespace gives you the ability to create an online platform with which you can make your latest goals into a reality. Whether you need a landing page, a beautiful gallery, a professional blog, or an online store, it's all included in your Squarespace website, a unique domain experience that is fully transparent and simple to set up. Add and arrange your content and features with the click of a mouse. Nothing to install, patch, or upgrade ever. Squarespace's award-winning 24/7 customer support will help you no matter how hard or how easy your problem may be. Right now, start a free trial today. Squarespace.com. Use offer code BS. Get 10% off your first purchase. Squarespace. Make your next move. Make your next website. Back to Bill Burr.
Did I hear right? Mary Tyler Moore died today?
Yeah.
Oh, man. There's another timeless one. I think Ted Knight, your top television character actors of all time. Ted Knight doing Ted Baxter. John Travolta, Vinnie Barbarino.
Right.
I'm trying to think of my Mount Rushmore. Henry Winkler doing the Fonz. Yeah. Because that was not on paper at all. Just as far as when I was growing up, I don't know who my fourth one is, but like
just like unique, belong to the era.
Like
characters.
like the writers wrote it, and then this person came in and just took it off the page and just like took it all the way to this whole other level of like you always hear the story about Henry Winkler when he came in to play the Fonz. They wanted like this big, like burly, like Italian kind of guy that looked like he could throw somebody through the wall, and Henry Winkler came in like who's like smaller than I am,
right?
And just
he's like 5'7".
But hey, I had the character and just completely blew him away. Having done a little bit of acting work, like you gain appreciation so much more. Like I drive my wife nuts sometimes. Like I'll be watching like Me TV, and I'll be like, look at that. None of that is on the page. That guy just came up with that, or she just came up with that. Like I'm one of those people. I'm blown away by actors, like the stuff that they can come up with, and I think it's a really disrespected art where everybody thinks they can do it.
Oh, totally. Because there's so many modeling is a little like that too, where they can just have this smiling charisma thing for like 7 hours as
What
somebody's
is?
taking a photo. Modeling.
Oh yeah.
You know, like just things where you have to do something over and over again for 8 hours at the same level.
Modeling is exhausting.
It
I don't
seems
even know. I
awful.
can imagine it is.
Oh my
absolute-
God, I can't smile for an hour.
Yeah, I've had to do a few just wardrobe fittings
Yeah.
for a show. Hey, you're gonna do this. Let's try on like 5 different jackets. I swear to God, you become like a little kid at the department store after a while. Like, I just want to go home. Yeah, it's the worst.
The acting, though, it's like you read these stories about these directors that make somebody do 35 takes of the same scene because they're trying to break them down in some way, and then take 34 when the person's just lost
Stanley
their minds.
Kubrick in
he was the most
The
famous
Shining.
one for that. Oh yeah,
Like,
I
he
think
was trying to drive
Shelley
them
Duvall had
insane.
like a breakdown by the end of that movie. He just kept making her do stuff over and over again and yelling at her, and by the end of it, it was like she was being haunted by Jack Nicholson, which is what he wanted.
I'm German Irish. I'd be all right. Let's do it. You think you're not gonna do it? You're not.
Right.
I joked with my wife one time when she was, I forget what she said she was gonna, I forget what scenario she presented me. And I was just going, she goes, I think you can handle that. And I said, oh, I'm German Irish. There's nothing you can throw at me emotionally that I can't bury. And it's true. I will bury all of it, and it'll just be sitting there hovering right next to me, and it'll come out. But it'll come out like when someone, waits till the light turns green to put on their left turn signal, and I'm right on that bumper. That's when it comes out. But
Right.
in the moment, like, I'll just sit there and suffer in silence. It's really a disease. I'm trying, hopefully, not to pass that on.
Tom Hagen was German Irish in The Godfather, the Consigliere, right?
Which Godfather?
In The Godfather 1, remember?
first
He
one?
goes to see the guy and the horse ends up in his bed. And he's like, let me
Is
tell
that
you
Robert
something.
Duvall's character?
Yeah, Robert
Oh,
Duvall.
okay.
He's like, let me tell you something, you wop, or whatever. And he's like, I'm German Irish.
Oh.
He interrupts him. So,
Do you know? Have you ever seen that house? The house.
it's in LA, right? It's like $100
Yeah.
million house. Isn't
yeah,
it? I thought it was like one of the most expensive
it's
houses
incredible.
in LA. Yeah.
It's incredible. I'll show you a picture of it. I don't want to blow up the person's spot where it is, but I mean, you can find it online. But it's
You can find anything online.
it's scary. It's incredible. It's really incredible.
So did you know that the All-Star game is here this weekend in Los Angeles, California for hockey?
For hockey, yes, I did know that.
Did you know that the 100 greatest living players are going to be in LA doing stuff?
You know what?
this
It's weird.
weekend?
I knew that, but I didn't dawn on me that they're actually in
See,
the city. I knew
this
that
is
they
how
were
I
going to
knew
be
you had
there.
a
But the
baby
only reason why I
because
knew that was because I did Bartnick's puck off, and he brought that up.
this is how I knew you just had a baby. Because normally at the no baby Bill Burr, I feel like you would be at this event. Just seeing how you
to be
reacted
in
to
an
Gretzky. If you're throwing in 50 other living legends.
I know those guys like
Espo, Bobby Hull with like the bad rug.
Dude,
That's gonna be
hockey
great.
and basketball in the 80s, I don't think it will ever be like that was because I when I got to see a golden age of football, 70s into the 80s. Like, I think the 80s was the greatest sports decade of my life as far as
pretty great.
the people that played and who you got to see. You know,
Well, you know what was great
Gretzky, Lemieux, all of those guys. There was the golden age of
You're talking hockey or everything?
everything.
Everything,
The
yeah,
finesse
yeah.
player and some of the greatest fighters.
Yeah.
Enforces all of that stuff in hockey, and you still had the old school stadiums. Buffalo had the Odd, we had the Garden, there was the Forum.
Yeah.
I mean, Maple Leaf Gardens, all of these Joe Louis Arenas, which is going to be going, and then you had in basketball, you had Bird, Magic, into the Bad Boys of Detroit, and
Football, you had the great quarterbacks.
into Jordan. And then what I loved about what I miss about the NBA is everybody had that 7-footer that they were trying to work the ball down. So you knew who everybody's, you knew Tree Rollins, you knew Jack Sikma, you knew who their big guys were. Kareem with the sky hook. It's like that poster you have up on the wall. Like, those guys were just, and also it's because I was a kid, and you have all those great memories of coming home, making steakums, right? And then get ready to watch
Stouffer's
the game.
mac and cheese.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
All of that stuff was just the greatest.
Much better college hoops back then.
Yeah, Marino, Joe Montana,
Yeah.
all of those guys, man, incredible.
Yeah, I think part of it, because in a lot of ways, like the NBA is probably better now than it was in the 80s from a talent standpoint. But I think the level of just analysis and picking guys apart and talking about them, it was much more innocent back then in the 80s. Like
Right.
Magic melting down in the 84 finals And, he cost them game 2. And he sucked at the end of game 4. And in game 7, he choked a couple times on the stretch. Like, if that happened in the internet era, that's all people would talk about for 6 months.
Yeah, I watched that
Skip
series.
Bayless would have a stroke.
I don't remember seeing that.
Yeah, he made like
that.
5 bad plays in 3 games.
All I remember was just game
relived.
6. We were up by like 18, and we were going to win it, and I was all excited. And then they came back one of those games, and then we blew it. And I was like, oh my God, are we going to blow this? And then that was my favorite championship that I saw them win was beating them in '84, and then that's my respect for the Lakers, who are the most successful franchise in my lifetime. They've won the most championships. Believe it or not, for some reason people don't talk about that. But since like '68, when I was born, they've won the most. That's true.
See, the Laker fans count the Minnesota titles, which really bothers me.
Yeah, and they count. I learned from your book that WBL or BAA.
Yeah, there's a lot of chicanery with the Minnesota
But what I
titles.
what I like about the 4 of them were in the NBA, so I'll give them that. But what I love about it fits LA, how everybody's out here, padding their resume, saying they're a director when they're waiting tables and stuff. So
right.
If you somehow
the
Minneapolis Lakers won an NBA championship before the NBA existed. I don't know how you do that, but somehow they did it. And then for whatever reason, that flag. Well, it makes sense because it's the same franchise. Hangs in the Staples Center. And
well, do you think the OKC fans should claim the 1979 Seattle Sonics title?
Well, this is the only way.
We won one. We won in '79.
Look,
there's no way they would do that.
Let's say the Lakers moved.
Yeah.
Right?
Do you get all the titles?
And they go to Vegas. Let's just say they get, for whatever reason, they go and they leave. And then they win a championship there. And what do you think would happen if there was a bunch of Vegas Laker fans, which would be even better that they keep Lakers in Vegas? When like, yeah, that's 17 bitches. We got 17. And they walked around with the jacket that had all the banners on the back. What do you think Laker fans would say?
They'd go insane.
They would go insane.
The LA fans would go
that's
insane.
That's how it works. Politics works the same way. Anybody who was for Trump could see how nuts Hillary was. Anyone who was for Hillary could see how nuts Trump was. But it's very rare that you can kind of look at both of them and be like, yeah, this person did this person did that. Let's try to weigh this out. I'm certainly not good at it.
The LA Rams and now the LA Chargers, we now have 2 football teams. You're a transplant like I am.
Yes.
Nobody cared that the Rams were here, really. And now we have the Chargers. Now there's 2 football teams that nobody's going to care about. Are you fascinated by this whole story at all?
No, I think we are in the entertainment bubble part of LA out here.
Okay.
So that we see the not caring, but I went to a game, and dude, there was some great throwback jerseys that people had. I saw Wendell Tyler, a Jack Youngblood, I saw a bunch of Dickersons, but he's like their Mickey Mantle.
Ferragamos?
I saw Vince Ferragamos. There was some I don't think I saw Pat Hayden, but I saw a Merlin Olsen, Rosie Greer, and they had the blue with the white and everything. I mean, personally, I think that they should go back to the blue and yellow.
Me too.
I think a lot of LA gets a bad rep for being sports fans because of the Hollywood phonies like us who move out here and look at it for 2 seconds.
Yeah.
And it's a very but if you get out to Inland Empire, you go a little north of here and all that, those are hardcore fans. My favorite person to meet out here is a lifelong person, Los Angelino, that lived out here because they love it out here. And I get sick of listening to people bitch about it because it is an amazing place to live. It's definitely difficult.
I totally agree.
Yeah. So
I like the lifelong Dodger fans. I think I've met some good ones, and you forget they moved out here in the late 50s or 60, whenever it was.
And every Red Sox fan was a Dodger fan in 77 and 78 and 81. God knows we couldn't beat the Yankees. We were like, hey, we can't do it. We keep choking. Can you guys? I loved when they won in 81 when they finally got him because, like I said, God knows we couldn't beat them. And,
what a sad time for the Red Sox that was. When we're rooting for other teams that played the Yankees, and we're rooting for Ray Bork to win the Cup.
Well, I got to tell
on
you,
another team and all that stuff.
That's why I'm trying to enjoy Brady and Belichick because that's going to happen again because they're going to leave. And Belichick's almost 70. I mean, how much longer can you?
I've noticed that when the Tuck Rule anniversary stuff was going on, and they put the entire Tuck. We call it the Snow Game oral history. 15 years later, but then The NFL put the entire game on. So I was like, I got to watch Vinatieri's kick. The first game. It's just like such a great moment. But then afterwards, or before, or whatever.
After the fumble.
After the fumble.
Yeah. The stupidest rule ever.
Maybe at the start of it, they interview Belichick, and he looks 38 years younger. Yeah. This is 15 years ago. He looks like he's a 40-year-old man. And
yeah.
That job is brutal.
No, if you look at him, I don't know when he's with Cleveland or he's with the Giants when he's really young, he was a really good-looking guy.
Yeah.
Really good-looking, like strong.
I think he's fucking handsome now.
Like a strong, physique was strong.
Yeah.
I don't know, dude. Did you see that thing on Barstool Sports?
Which one?
Did you see that video that kid made of, Bronx Tale? Now you can't leave, when they're in the bar.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
Yes,
Oh, my
I did.
God. I don't know who made that, but it was hilarious.
I remember at Grantland we did one right after Deflategate with Belichick doing the "Say Hello to the Bad Guy" speech from Scarface.
Oh,
you need
that's a
people
great
like
one.
me, because I do think that's how he feels to some degree.
Well,
right?
just honestly, the level of nitpicking
Yeah.
that goes on, even like with the Steelers, it was like there was a fire alarm pulled. And then like you put on the NFL Network and you got like Lawrence Taylor going, yeah, we used to find out what the opposing running back, what kind of woman he liked. And we'd order 3 call girls and to go there and try to keep him up all night. And everybody's just,
Yeah, that's so
the
good.
Giants, everything's hilarious. Everything's hilarious unless we do it. So, but you just have to take that as a compliment as a sports fan, meaning like these people are upset. Like that's why I love Giants fans, because they never complain about the Patriots because they kicked our ass twice. They don't have to like nitpick. They beat us, where everybody else has to be like, oh, you're just a Brady fanboy, and they take it outside
The Giants
of the
fans
game.
look at us subjectively. You're right.
Yeah, no, because they
And like they own
did
us.
it. And I got to be honest with you, I actually, as a Patriots fan, I love the Giants. Like I've always, I love the Steelers.
All right, we have to end the podcast now.
No, I just love defensive-minded teams.
Yeah.
I love watching them. There's nothing better than watching just a defense that's going to shut
The
you
way
down.
they beat our undefeated team, I thought we legitimately lost that game. I thought they were just more physical than us.
At the offensive
They
line.
just dominated our O-line.
And even then,
and Brady's mugged the
Tom
whole
Brady
game.
still drove us down.
Yeah, we had the
That's
lead
the
with
thing.
3 minutes
Yep.
left.
He's done
the
it
second
every
game we
single
should have
time.
won.
Every game, every Super Bowl he's ever been in, he's driven down for either the go-ahead, get us in position for a field goal or a touchdown. And what's crazy to me is that he'll take like it's part of being the quarterback, but like if our defense could have held him, he could have already had 5, maybe 6. I wouldn't say though in
Or you
08.
could go the other way and say we could have lost the Rams game in overtime.
Oh, sure we could have, yeah.
I think the Panthers and Eagles were winning those games 9 out of 10 times. That
No,
Panthers
dude, the
game was
Panthers- the
tied.
Panthers,
It was
like,
tied with 2 minutes left.
What's his face had? Who was their quarterback? He had the game of his
Delhomme.
life. Delhomme, man, he was not even remotely nervous. I remember when he scored that, he threw that touchdown, and
like
he
an
turned around.
80-yarder, yeah.
And he turned around. He was talking all kinds of trash. And he was shaking his head, and I was just going like, uh-oh. He was like he was in like that Vince Young zone before Vince Young, except when he was in the Rose Bowl. Except he didn't win it. Like I was.
And didn't open a steakhouse.
I was legitimately. That's part of being an ex-football player. You got to open a steakhouse. I was legitimately concerned with that. Like the Rams, I was thinking, we had a shot because Belichick was the
Well, the
coordinator.
Rams, all the Boston DNA came in because we had the interception touchdown that they called back on the penalty. That would have ended the game with like 10 minutes left. And then the Rams scored. And all my Boston, I was
just
at
remember
that game.
Ty Law. I remember
Ty
Ty
Law's
Law
going-
bringing that one back.
Yeah.
I was sitting in the opposite
They
end.
called a little, they chipped him. So I was sitting in the end zone where where Vinatieri kicked the game-winning field goal.
Oh, I was in the opposite end
Oh,
zone.
yeah. And that TD, he's running toward us, and it's going to end the game. And then, like, the flag down, and it was just like, oh, we're going to
my
get fucked.
God,
We're going to
that's
lose
right.
again. It was like too many men on the ice, and Bucky
just
Dan
remember-
and all those moments were coming together again in this game. And I remember, like, just not being able to breathe.
I remember when they won the Super Bowl the first time.
Yeah.
To me, I was thinking I would have thought I would have seen the Red Sox win a World Series before because we were playing that little crappy stadium.
Oh,
I
they
just
were the
remember
black sheep.
We were in the upper deck, the opposite end zone. My brother and my dad, and I just remember they lined up to kick the field goal, and it was in the air. Everybody just sort of put their arms out like just touching,
Yeah.
like in front. Your mother would put your hand in front of you when she slammed on the brakes when you didn't put seatbelts on kids.
Right.
Everybody was doing that on both sides, like you were security, like, oh my God, and it went through. And I just remember the whole section just like tackled each other. And I was actually
That was my section, too.
worried
Same thing.
about my dad, like making sure, he's an older guy. I didn't want to break his leg or anything. And then getting up and the 3 Rams fans that were there two of them had already left, and one guy stuck around. He said, "Hey, good game." I said, "Thanks," and he left. And I couldn't believe it. I could not believe it. And I thought for sure that was...
Or there was a flag going down.
No, I
just
thought that we're one and done. Like, to me, we won a Super Bowl means the Red Sox are now going to go another 50 years.
Yeah.
Celtics will have another draft pick that's going to somehow die tragically. And I just, we were just in that era. We're never going to beat the Yankees, so I'm going to really savor this one. I had no idea that we were going to go on a run.
Yeah, the Celtics were like Aaron Rodgers. The Red Sox were like Jordan Rodgers, the one that won The Bachelor, but like kind of, definitely a pseudo black sheep. The Patriots were the other Rodgers brother, who was like just excited to be on The Bachelor with his brother, like just like a full-fledged black sheep, like trying to start.
No, we'll go Baldwin brothers. He was
Baldwin brothers.
He
That's
was
even
Danny.
better.
He was Danny Baldwin.
He's Danny,
who, by the way, is great in Trees Lounge. If you've never seen it, he's hilarious.
So Alec was the Celtics.
The Red Sox, depending on who. If you think it's a baseball
Billy's
back.
the Red Sox.
Billy's the Red Sox. All right.
And then I think Daniel was. Maybe Billy was the Bruins.
I think Billy was the Bruins. I think Steve depends on what year. It depends on what year you're talking, because Alec was the Bruins in the early 70s.
The Patriots were whoever the worst one was. That was the black sheep.
Yeah.
I mean, they almost moved. They were going to go to Hartford. There was a whole piece about it this week about they were like all the way down the road with Hartford.
I was done with them too. If they were going to move, done? I was done. I mean, I say that. I was saying that in anger. I was going to be like, if you guys leave.
And the funny thing is, it's probably just as close as Foxborough is if you're leaving Boston. I mean, 90 minutes to Hartford and 7 hours to Foxborough.
I know. We used to, when I had season tickets, back when they would let you do this, there was a town just before Foxborough, and we used to park. It was a dead-end street.
Yeah.
And it was the greatest thing, because you jump on that street that ran parallel to Route 1, and all these suckers were sitting in traffic, and we would go through Walpole and all of that, and we'd get all the way over there, and we'd go down this dead-end street. It was like 6 houses that all let people park in their yards, and then there was this big, like, sort of half a field right near these train tracks. I'm hoping people are going to remember where this is. Excuse me, I just had meatballs. As I described it.
We're just trading burps.
And we used to park there and then just get loaded, and then we would walk along the train tracks that go underneath Route 1.
Oh, what could go wrong?
And then the hardest thing, I remember being hammered, always looking back for a train. And when people would be walking on the train tracks, and then you had to walk up that steep slope where the bridge was, where they went over Route 1, and then you'd come up, and then you'd be on the Sullivan Stadium side. You'd walk underneath it, and then you'd be right up near where the parking lots were. And it was such a great time. It was the greatest place to tailgate. But as it got later in the season, that walk, it seemed like it was a 10-mile trek.
You left out the metal benches that as it got colder in the season, it was like sitting on a freaking igloo or aluminum benches. Yeah,
but that is a metal. I'm being a jerk here. Yeah.
I went to the famous Patriots game. I was 6 years old, I think, the 1976 Monday Night Football game against the Jets.
Naked bootleg?
My dad and my Uncle Bob took me. The one, I think it ended with they carried the goal. Was that the one where they carried the goalpost and the guy got electrocuted? Yeah. We didn't get a Monday Night Football game for like 8 years after that.
Yeah, no,
I was at that game. We were banned.
The town of Foxborough banned us from Monday Night Football
from any night games,
and then also was the nail in the coffin of bankrupting the Sullivan family when they they had the pay-a-play contract with Michael Jackson.
It was a disaster.
Now I thought for the whole time because of that one show they got bankrupted, but it
was the whole tour.
A local promoter told me that what bankrupted them was now I might be wrong on this, but this is the urban myth that I heard, was when they agreed to promote the tour, which was a huge get for them. They didn't realize how big Michael Jackson's stage was going to be, and he ate up all these seats.
Right.
And they
guaranteed him. ESPN just did a short on this.
Oh, they did.
And I didn't know half of it, but I can't remember which Sullivan it was, but they guaranteed a certain number to the Jacksons. Like, no matter what happens, you get this number.
Because they knew they were going to sell out.
And then they didn't figure out the stage part, and they just took a bath.
Yeah, and when
they had to sell the team, like they put up the team in the stadium as collateral for this concert tour. God. The Jacksons are the reason that Bob Kraft.
No, it isn't. It's Billy. It's whoever made it. Billy Sullivan, the Billy Baldwin of the Sullivan family.
Right.
If he, I'm going to trash that guy, but
no, we can trash him.
No, those guys are all more successful than me. That just what was I going to say? Yeah, he blew it. The son messed
The
it.
Jacksons-
The lawyer, whoever missed that point. But one of the cool things was they asked him to have a smaller stage. This is the urban myth here. He's like, I can't do that because Prince will have, because he had this big rivalry with Prince, and he wanted to so outdo him.
Right. That was right during the Purple Rain, right after Purple Rain, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So that led. So the Sullivans had to sell. They sold it to Victor Kiam, who owned, I think, Remington.
That went great.
Lisa
I like
Olsen,
the company I like the Razor so much I bought the company.
Right. So we had this whole sexual harassment scandal where they said these
Mowat
horrible
and
things. Zeke
all those guys,
Mowat to
yeah.
Lisa Olsen, the Boston reporter, was terrible, and he's making jokes about it at some banquet, and everybody's like, "You gotta go!" Like even to do that in '91, where you're like, "This guy's gotta go." Like that's how bad it was. Like think nowadays they'd probably just be.
He was
thrown
doing
in jail.
locker room talk live.
Live with a microphone and video. So he sells to James Orthwine, who was running Anheuser-Busch, who just wanted to move the team to St. Louis. And that was his goal. That falls through. Kraft comes in on his white horse. It's
on a
people don't realize,
on a team of white horses.
we were like the Jets with less stability, the Patriots, and that's why it's just funny now that everybody hates
And how
the
about the fact
Pats.
that
And
Belichick was gonna
go to the Jets.
He was all set. He was all set. You know what's funny about like Jets fans?
Yeah.
Is like even without their gear on, you see the difference in posture between Jet and Giants fans. Like Giants fans look like
Right.
they're sitting upright and that type of Jets fans. They just have like that. They're
that's like
just all.
if you're a Jets fan and a Mets fan, you have scoliosis.
Yeah, you do.
You're just hunched over sadly the whole time.
I know, which is why I can never figure out Artie Lang, because Artie Lang is a Yankee fan. He should be sitting up more.
He should be prouder.
Yeah, that should be more. But like when I see the way he sits, I'm like, this guy roots for the Jets.
Yeah.
He has to.
Quick break to talk about Hint Water. You know you should drink 8 glasses of water a day, so why don't you? I know why, because it's bland. You want something that tastes good, right? Well, here's the solution. Drink Hint Water. Hint is pure water, only it's infused with the taste of fresh fruit. Who doesn't love the taste of fresh fruit? Flavors like watermelon, peach, mango, grapefruit, many more. No sugar, no chemicals, just great tasting, all natural fruit-flavored water. Plus, you don't have to carry heavy cases of water back from the store. You know why? You can have it delivered right to your doorstep. Right now, new customers get a single variety pack shipped directly to your door. It includes 3 bottles of Hint's, 3 bottles each of Hint's 4 most popular flavors, either pineapple, watermelon, crisp apple, and blackberry. It's normally $24, but right now you can get it for $15 at Drink Hot Down. I always have trouble. This read always makes me thirsty. I start thinking about the fruit infused water. I just start to get thirsty. You can get it right now for $15. It's normally $24. That variety pack. drinkhint.com/BS. Code BS. That is drinkhint.com/BS. And code BS. Back to Bill Burr. How did you think Boston fans were appropriately upset about Deflategate, or did we go too far? Because the entire country thinks we went too far.
I gotta be honest with you. The level of overreaction equaled the level of coverage. I mean, it went on for like a year and a half.
Right.
And then in the meantime, you're seeing stuff like, the Falcons pumping in crowd noise, and it's just all considered funny. And like, when people beating their kids and knocking out, women in elevators and stuff. And it's just like, this went on longer than that.
Yeah.
This was a bigger fine than that. This was a longer suspension than that. So like personally, I don't think it did, but I also think most of the stuff that goes on is people's resentment for the fact that we're doing well. Because if you really look at a lot of the stuff that they criticize you for, like I'm noticing as a fan, is like now it goes personal because they can't mess with the rings, they can't mess with the records, and it just starts going like oh, Tom Brady's like your like boyfriend or something, blah blah. Like do stuff like that.
He'll
or
defend anything he does.
Yeah.
I do with
why
the Yankees.
Why are you guys still so angry and blah blah? It's just like you guys have it's total capitulation. You can't keep the argument on the field or in the stadium or at the rink. You have to now take it out to like, I don't like your shirt.
Right.
Why are you always wearing those championship shirts? So
we did it with the Yankees forever. I still do it. My buddy Jacko, diehard Yankee fan, like they won the title in 2009. It's like, yeah, A-Rod was on your team. He's a cheater. Like, I
Oh,
get
yeah.
it.
Yeah,
It's fun to
but
throw asterisks at other fans, so I totally get it.
this is what I say with Yankee fans. I just say, look, our roided up guys beat your roided up guys.
Totally.
It was
We
totally,
out-roided
which is
them.
why I didn't have a problem with Lance Armstrong, because people were drugging from the front of the race to the back of the race. So it's like our doped up guy beat your doped up guy.
Yeah.
That was a bit I was doing.
It was
you
the
can't ride a
all-drug
bicycle
Olympics.
60 miles an hour up and down a mountain for a month straight and not be on something. If you look at the pictures of the original Tour de France, like the ones in black and white, they're riding side by side talking, they're smoking cigarettes and stuff. And it's like, it was sort of like, hey, we're going to race when we race.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Can
like,
I get a light?
Yeah, like I'm sure, like I don't know if they had the time trials back then. Of course, I'm judging all my history by one photo that I saw. I'm like, oh yeah, look at this. This is the way it is. Can I get some of that water? If you don't mind?
hell
Oh,
yeah.
here's my water. Here's my water.
Yeah.
Right here.
I think of that now, like how naive we are with certain things, and then I wonder if it's happening with the sports we have now, and I'm just being naive like I was with Sammy Sosa and Barry Bonds. And you're like, wow, those guys, it's amazing. They really juiced up the baseballs. Like I went to the home run derby in '99 at Fenway. It's like, wow, these are like golf balls they're using. Like never even occurs to us that this is basically like Ivan Drago going on with all these
but
different
here's the
baseball
thing
guys.
about that. About a lot of that was the game was in such a horrible place after '94.
Yeah, we were all fine with it.
Yeah, and we all got robbed of seeing the Expos. That would have been so great to
It
see
was a
them
great
win it.
baseball season.
And all those guys were all young on that team, Randy and Pedro and all those
Also,
guys.
it was pre-internet. There wasn't a lot to do. Like we just got robbed in general anyway. Thank
But
God
really,
OJ.
like,
Thank God OJ
I always
happened.
wondered, like, if they won that series, does that keep the Expos there?
That would have been nice.
Yeah, and so then, like, the big thing they had to hang their hat on was Cal Ripken breaking Lou Gehrig's streak. That's the one thing that they had. And I think that once the steroids started to get out of control, which they already were, because I thought that, the Oakland A's were kind of ahead of their time with that stuff in the late 80s.
And it might have even been before that.
Right, and I think that all the owners just looked the other way. And I think that they built stadiums that were conducive to it.
Yeah.
The same way the NFL has made all of these rules to help, like, offense sells a game. Like, if you want to sell soccer in this country, have guys start winning 5-4. There's 9 goals because we don't know the songs to sing. We don't have the scarves, and it just gets boring after a while. But like the casual fan will latch onto it. And I think what happened with baseball was the owners. It's the same way if you're working on a movie and somebody's using. Everybody knows. Everybody knows, but nobody's going to say anything, right? And then everybody acts shocked when something happens.
Like who?
Huh? No. But in baseball's the same thing. There's
Basketball
there's
now
no
at the
way.
threes.
There's no
the
way.
threes are the equivalent of the home run boom in baseball in the late 90s. Everybody making these threes. Fans like the threes. They love Steph Curry making 30-footers. I know you're old school.
If I ran a league, I would not do drug testing. I wouldn't. I want to sell the game. And if these guys want to take that stuff, because what's great about all of these guys abusing steroids is they're becoming more and more safe. It's kind of like weed, how when weed got legalized, now all of a sudden they can just boil it down to like what gets you high. My brother told me the other day he took the pill. It's not the part that gets you high. It's just the part of marijuana that makes your muscles relax. He goes, dude, my back was messed up. I took it. I felt great. And I was like, but what'd you feel like the next day? He goes, no, it's fine. Like whatever was all spasm just totally chilled out. Like they're doing that with steroids. I've said this before. Like I'm convinced, but when you and I get into like our 70s and 80s, if we're
It's
lucky
going to be great.
enough,
I'm going to be so roided up.
oh yeah, dude, we
Yeah.
are going to be shredded. I'm going to have a full head of hair again.
Yeah.
We're going to be running 440s.
I'm going to have good eyesight.
Yeah, that LASIK eye serum.
Yeah, well, need it. I'll have it by HGH.
Yeah, it's going to be.
No, I'm with you.
And you can thank all of those guys. And I always thought Barry Bonds was a victim of the steroid era, where he was the guy, and then everybody else took these things and went past him. And now the president is calling these guys that Barry was better than. And I always thought he was just like,
He's trying to catch up.
Well, here's
Yeah.
me on roids. There's
Yeah.
73 home runs.
Right.
So,
I'm with you. No, I was watching when Jimmy Snuka died. I went on YouTube and I was looking at some of his old matches, and this, the steroid guys back then, the steroids weren't good. It's like what you're talking about. So you have these water weight steroid bodies that just don't exist anymore. Like you don't see the early 80s steroids bodies because the steroids are good. And now they strip away the water, and it's like everybody's got a lower body fat, just rippling muscles.
Yeah.
We don't know who's on it.
Yeah, those are the ones where you just got like Hulk muscles.
Yeah.
And your tendons would, like, if you went to reach for like a salt shaker, like your entire tendon would snap.
Well, and that's, I mean, we've seen athletes that have like their wrist tendon just snaps one day, or, you know, when tendons and ligaments start just snapping, it probably means you might have put on too much muscle on your body.
Steroids, as far as what I've overheard in a sports bar, was it just builds the muscles, but the tendon stays the same. So then the amount of pressure.
You can't build ligaments and tendons beyond a certain point, but you can keep adding muscles to your body.
If they when they come up with that,
increasing your ligaments?
Yeah, that's when someone's going to rip somebody's arm off by accident. They're going to have like
it'll be like the Phil Hartman All-Drug Olympics. It'll actually have somebody's arm might actually come off.
That could possibly.
So how you feeling about the Super Bowl?
I think it's 50-50 shot, and I'm not going to buy into all of this hype. I mean, people, you know, when it comes to Vegas, you know, with the Super Bowl, those are not true football fans. There's a lot of mouth breathers show up, and they bet emblems, and they bet image, and they know Brady, and they know Belichick. I was saying today on, I did Rich Eisen's show earlier, and I was talking about how, you know, the easiest, most biggest gift ever, I can't believe I didn't see it. I was just so a Patriots fan, was the Giants getting 14 or 17 or whatever when we played them the first time. And we just played them a month earlier, and they scored like 30-something points, and we only won by 3 or 4. Like, how did we get that much better in a month? And what it was is Vegas tries to get money on both sides of the ball.
Yep.
So they were trying to entice people to vote the Giants. And I don't think it would have made me a bad Patriot fan to take that bet. I mean, I've lost so much money like gambling on games and stuff over the years. I mean, that thing was just on a silver platter. So as far as like my gut instincts before I saw the line was definitely take the Falcons in points if they're dogs, but they picked a great number at 3.
I thought it was going to be 6. I thought there was going to
nervous.
be way more
dude,
Pats respect.
I would dive on Falcons in 6. I'd be all over, because people are talking about, and I also think people think that there's going to be a shootout, and it's just like
the Super Bowl is never a shootout.
I think the defense is like I'm too critical of our team, so I can't really objectively look at where our defense is. I always get nervous about our defense, but like forget about the Falcons' 3-headed monster that they got going on offense. Like, I was really impressed with their defense, and I was totally converted in 2 playoff games. So I was on my podcast just going like, yeah, Seattle's been there before, and I know they don't have, you know, the beast mode guy running it in anymore, but like they got Pete Carroll. You know, and they got Sherman. He'll shut down the side of the field. So I'm just like, yeah, whatever. And then they beat Seattle. I'm like, oh, good. They beat Seattle. Good for them. They're going to lose to the Packers. And they just like, now I'm just like, okay, these guys are like, you know, they kind of got that destiny vibe thing going on. And this is really Matt Ryan's year. I mean, he's just playing, he's playing amazing. And I think, you know, okay, so you're going to double Julio Jones, and then you got to deal with that running back too. And then they got another guy. Like, I'm really bad with the names. They got that other guy. They got a secondary receiver that's also
Sanu.
Yeah.
And Taylor Gabriel.
Yeah. And those guys are like playing like all pros too. I think it's going to be. I think there's a lot of problems to solve. So I by no means, and the Falcons are going to totally get to play the whole like this team in the other locker room. They don't respect us, because ESPN is just going to be going like, you know, Brady going for the ring on his thumb. And
see, I already feel like it's going the other way. I think the Falcons are getting a lot of love.
I hope they do.
Which is good.
That's good for us.
Yeah.
That's good for us. I am by no means comfortable at all watching this game.
Belichick last week, in the great situation of coming off a shitty playoff win, which is when he's at his best. We got to advance against the Texans, but we didn't play well.
Didn't play well. That was horrific.
And Belichick, that's his wheelhouse. I knew we were going to play well offensively last week. I didn't think the defense.
Well, you knew the
O
line, whatever he does to whatever, like the O line, how bad they were in the Texans game. It was like he got like 5 new guys or something. It was incredible. But
I think it's 55-45. Just from a pure ratio with the Pats, because I think
percentage.
Well, I think they're probably even as teams for the most part, but I think it's an advantage to have gone through all the Super Bowl stuff before. And I think people forget that part. Atlanta is like new. Matt Ryan has never been this famous before. They've never had all these people asking for tickets and all these interviews and all the stuff that goes with it. Where somebody like Brady, it's a machine at this point.
But I don't, the little that I've seen in interviews and stuff, I don't think those guys you just mentioned for the Falcons, they don't look like they rattle. You know, I think they look like they're built for this, because they're not like the 2 types of people that get shook by that are the people who aren't ready for it, which is not them. And there's people who are like, they want to put on the Ray-Bans.
That would be Antonio Brown.
And
here's my Facebook Live for Media Day.
Yeah, and sign a 3-picture movie deal. Those are the guys that don't do well during Super Bowl week. But like, they just seem really.
I love it.
Focused.
Keep making the Falcons case. It makes me bet. I don't want people to think the Pats are a slam dunk. I love the fact that the line was only 3.
No, there's no such thing as a slam dunk in the playoffs. That's why regular season stats are such BS.
I know.
Whenever they scored the most points ever by an offense or whatever. It's like, yeah, and they probably 12 of their games are people that are not going to make the playoffs. It's like you're not going up against those defenses, and you get to really pad your stats. I mean, it's pretty disrespectful when a league has that level of parity for me to say that. But, I mean, I never get into my thing is, what do you do in January? Like, those are the ones, like, it's Eli. Eli, I swear to God, is literally sleepwalking. He's bored in September, somewhere between, whenever it gets to that point, like, hey, Eli, wake up, buddy, you need to win the next 7 games to make the playoffs. How many games you got left? 7?
Eli's hitting the snooze alarm on his clock. Even 9 more minutes.
And then he's one of those guys that's like, I don't know what it is about, but the later in this season, the more focused. Like, if you ever play the Giants, you want to play them in September. They're just waking up. They look like Keystone Cops out there. One of my great friends, Paul Verzi, he huge Giant fan, and like every year he'll be like, in September, he goes, yeah, what are we doing? We got a defensive back stinking. He's ripping them, and then all of a sudden, like mid-October, he goes, I don't know, man, they're starting to gel, and then by November, he's like, dude, we're coming. We could do some things.
We own you guys. We've beaten you twice.
Yeah, they do own us. That's why I wanted to play them again. It sucks they got knocked out. They didn't. They lost. They lost.
No, they didn't want it. I feel like they threw the game.
My buddy's like, no, Patriots fans were just as scared. It's like, dude, we have nothing to lose.
Yeah, we wanted it.
0-2, 0-3, who cares?
It flips the script.
Yeah,
the Giants are just better off never playing Belichick and Brady again in the Super Bowl. Just walk off. It's like a blackjack table.
Exactly.
Just get the chips and leave.
Go to your room.
Just don't make the Super Bowl until Belichick and Brady are done.
Yeah, if I was a Giant fan, I would never want to play the Patriots again in the playoffs, just because you want to have that thing. That's what you're risking.
Right.
All I'm risking is you adding another 30% of trash.
If Brady wins his 5th, knock on wood, I'm knock on wood, then he'd be 5-2 with the 2 losses against the Giants. That's almost worth 5 Super Bowls for the Giants fans.
Yeah,
it's like we
you got to go.
If it wasn't for us, Brady would have gone 7-0. It's pretty amazing.
Are you one of those guys that say Brady's the greatest of all time already, or does he need to get the 5th?
I don't think with quarterbacks you can say who the greatest is because the era's changed too much.
Yep.
I almost feel like there's just a short list. But I think he's in the conversation now for just greatest sports career of all time. I don't know how many people are on that list, but to be able to, like, he played played his best playoff game last Sunday at age 39. He played 34 playoff games. That was the best he's ever played in the playoffs. Like, at this point, it's like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, I don't know. I'll tell you what, one of the best sports careers that I've seen in my life. No, Derek Jeter. Wire to wire.
It was good.
Oh, it was 3,000 hits. He hits a walk-off.
I was always scared of him every time he came up.
Every milestone in his career was like the end of a Tom Hanks movie.
Yeah.
And then the way, and then just the way he handled off the field.
Yeah.
The amount of women, and none of them went psycho on him.
No.
I so want to believe. Want to believe the gift bag myth.
Yeah, no,
that you
what
get
about
like
the fact he
the
dealt with
nice
A-Rod?
smelling soaps and all of those.
Oh yeah.
Oh, and then the greatest thing for just as being a sportsman was seeing A-Rod go to that team, just so they could be side by side to see the difference of how different ways to handle the spotlight. Because I've actually softened up on A-Rod over the years,
Me too.
where I look at him and I see a lot of me as far as like I shouldn't have said that. I should have handled that differently. Like he kind of like he zigs every time he's supposed to zag. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the stuff that he says, he's in his head a lot, and I kind of like I hate how much of that aspect. You know, minus the looks and the Hall of Fame career, I see a lot of me in A-Rod.
Hey, last question. If you see the Monday morning podcast,
Yep.
Belichick's on.
Okay.
Belichick comes on and says, "You can ask me anything. I'll answer any question you want." What would be the one question you'd want to ask him that you'd be the most fascinated in? Bye.
Well, obviously, I'd want to ask a sports question, but I know he's so sick of that, and I love the guy so much, I want him to like me, that I would find out what his favorite band was.
Oh, interesting.
And I would ask him,
so he probably likes Bon Jovi.
Okay, say he likes Bon Jovi.
Yeah.
I go, favorite Bon Jovi, like a most underrated Bon Jovi song, just to watch him crack a smile.
Right, he'd
just
have to
see
answer.
if
He'd
I
be
could
excited.
do it. Yeah, just to
This
see
would
if I
be
could
my
do
move with Popovich if I was ever a sideline reporter. Popovich is like a huge wine buff.
Uh-huh.
So when those poor guys who have to do the, Greg, what did you see out of your team in the last quarter? I would just be like, Greg, if you had to compare your team to a Barolo from the 1990s, what would it be? And he'd be so excited. No. He'd be like, oh, that's probably like a Rafino. Like, he'd have to think about it. He'd be excited to answer.
More reporters, if they knew that, if they would learn that information
learn it.
And then get in there. I remember I did stand up one time at the baseball awards when they were giving out their Cy Young and all that.
Yeah.
And this is how I learned it. I ran into Bernie Williams. And I so wanted to be like, oh my God, what's it like to play center field for the Yankees? What's it like to hit a home run?
Yeah.
I never did it at the Little League. What's it like to be in a stadium that size and just hit it? But I didn't. And I just so happened to have seen him playing guitar with a band, and he was really good.
Yeah.
And so I was legitimately impressed. And I read this thing, and it said he had this musical background, and I'm a frustrated drummer / musician and all that type of stuff. I'm horrible, but like I have such an appreciation for it that when I saw him, like, I don't know, I just asked that question, and he
locked
like,
in.
Yeah, and I actually got to talk to him for a minute, and I kind of learned, and I used that accidental moment. Because I was legitimately asking. I wasn't trying to trick him or anything. That now, like, if I go to meet somebody that has done something like that, like the last thing, like you was talking about Robert Duvall earlier. If you ever meet him, the last thing you want to do is ask him about the horsehead scene or whatever.
Right.
I would somehow try to figure out if whatever else he was into, anything. Talk about the weather, anything.
I think that's
other
why
than
in
what's
2012
it like to be Robert Duvall.
Right. In 2012, Obama agreed to do a podcast with me. And this was back when people barely, podcasts were going, but it wasn't like it is now. And I think he just wanted to talk sports with somebody for 25 minutes. It was really what it came down to. It was like, I'm so tired of answering the same questions day after day after day. I want somebody to come in and ask me about the Bulls and Michael Jordan and what I think about LeBron.
The sadness and relief of leaving that job.
Oh, my God.
The combination of...
I would say more relief than sadness.
Yeah, I can't imagine going like such a difference in philosophy. And this guy literally saying, I'm undoing what you just did. It'd be like if he just redid a house.
Yeah.
And you love the kitchen and everything, and the guy just goes, yeah, I'm ripping that out and putting the exact opposite style in.
It would be like if somebody took over the Pats from Belichick and traded all our draft picks and just started spending a ton of money in free agency. How about, you have more first round? I'm trading all of it. Bill Burr, your Netflix special is at the end of this month. Is this your fourth one that's on Netflix? Because when I went to look at it, you had a whole bunch of them up there.
This would be my fifth. There's currently...
It's your fifth one.
Yeah, they currently have 3 of them up there. Why Do You Do This? My first one is not on there right now. So this would be my fifth one that I've done that's ended up there, and this is my...
Were you trying to time it for the possible Pats 5th Super Bowl?
Oh, maybe a little serendipity there.
Why don't you put a little Super Bowl trophy on the bottom of the logo?
No, I have no idea. I'm telling you right, I think the Super Bowl is going to be a classic. I really hope it is. I'm hoping it's going to be a classic.
I hope so, too. I hope it's a classic that we
win. The only thing I don't like about all this sports talk is it turns everything into such a soap opera that you really forget to really just watch the game and try to remember and how great it was going to be. Because all those, all the games that I've seen, Marino, Montana going up against each other, Staubach and Bradshaw, like that's what you really should be remembering rather than like, what does it say about his legacy? Do you put this guy in your Mount Rushmore of offensive linemen and all that, just mulching it over and over and over? And what's the new angle and like...
or the other one with the...
Were we fair to the Atlanta Falcons? Now that we actually hyped it up, we're now going to go the other way on our own friggin' story. It's so stupid. I'm going to be late though, man. I got to run.
Bill Burr, a pleasure. Thank
Walk
you.
your way out. Look for it January 31st on Netflix. Thank you so much for helping me promote this. And I hope the next time you see us, we got 5. All right?
Me too.
All right.
I hope that as well. All All right, thanks so much to Bill Burr. Don't forget about his Netflix special. Thanks to Channel 33 and Shack House. Please subscribe. We are working on another Sports Movie Hall of Fame podcast. Heavy rumors about White Men Can't Jump being the 4th podcast. We put those on Channel 33. They're talking about remaking White Men Can't Jump. Ben Lindbergh wrote a very good piece in the Ringer today about the reasons you should or should not remake a movie. I agreed with his final take. Let's just put it that way. But we're working on that. Thanks to SeatGeek. Don't forget to download the SeatGeek app, and don't forget to check out their Super Bowl tickets. They will help you find the right deal. Come on, New England, step it up. Thanks to Roast Battle, launches January 26th on Comedy Central. Thanks to Squarespace.com. Use offer code BS for 10% off your first purchase. Thanks to Hint Water. Go to drinkhint.com/BS for a variety pack deal. I'm getting thirsty again. We're back on Friday with an NBA podcast. I can neither confirm nor deny that it's a profane individual with red hair who is the guest on that podcast. I'll let you guess who that is. Until then, play us up, Paul John.